Hi, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Nazarian here, and we are on lesson number 2 of writing our fractured tales. So last week we talked about how to make changes to a fairy tale to make the story more interesting. And we started planning out our fractured tale. So you should have filled this out in your Google Classroom, the Planning a Fractured Fairy Tale. Okay? Today we're going to continue with the planning. We're going to start planning scene 1. So we're not writing our fairy tale quite yet. We're going to finish planning. And then the next lesson, I'm going to help you with your introduction. And then you're going to be writing the scenes of your fractured tale. So in today's planning, I want you to think about how you're going to describe the setting, how you're going to describe the characters, and how you're going to describe the first action. So you want to develop interesting characters. And one of the ways to develop interesting characters is to use lots of descriptive language, lots of describing words. Explain to your readers what those characters are like. You do the same with the setting. You use descriptive language and describe the setting. And when you start writing about the very first action that takes place in your story, you will continue using lots of descriptive language. Okay, so today you're going to go onto your Google Classroom and you're going to find the Scene 1 planning. Okay, and it says here, describe the setting, characters, and first action in your story. Look at the examples of describing words, or adjectives is what they're called, used in fairy tales in the chart below. So down here, I put some examples of some describing words or adjectives that you may want to use. This box here has some examples of describing words for setting. Both of these boxes are describing words or adjectives for characters. These are some positive traits, and these are some maybe negative traits for your characters. So when I filled out a description of the setting, characters, and action for my story, I found these words very helpful. So in case you have forgotten from the last lesson, I plan to write a fractured tale called The Three Little Hamsters. And the characters are going to be hamster 1, 2, and 3, and a big bad cat. The setting takes place in a house, and the animals are going to be like people. They're going to talk and have personalities like people. The problem is a big bad cat keeps breaking into their houses and eating them. And the problem's going to be solved by hamster number 3, the third little hamster. He outsmarts the cat. So when I completed my description for setting, character, and action, I'll share with you so you can have an example, and maybe this will inspire you with using lots of describing words when you're describing your setting. So instead of it being an ordinary house, I decided it was going to be a large, fancy mansion with many rooms. The hamsters make their houses in the bedrooms of the 3 children who live there. The characters are going to be the first little hamster, the second little hamster, and the third little hamster. Well, the first little hamster, and I wrote notes here, is careless. He eats a lot of unhealthy food. He's messy, and he likes to collect like junk. And he is going to make his house represent him. It's going to be messy and junky too. The second hamster is lazy. He never finishes anything that he starts, and he just lays around and doesn't get much done. The third hamster is clever and works very hard, and he's the one that's going to outsmart the cat. So I started thinking about the action. So if you think about your story as scenes, so you're going to be writing maybe 3 scenes, kind of like a beginning scene, a middle, and an end. And you can think about your story kind of like a play or a movie. And so the first action in my story is when the mom hamster tells the 3 little hamsters that it's way too crowded in their house, or in their cage, I'm sorry. And it's time for them to move out and make cages or houses of their own. So the first hamster goes into the garbage. Remember, he's like messy and likes unhealthy food. And he finds a bunch of junk food wrappers and decides he's going to make his house out of the junk food wrappers, which are like paper and flimsy plastic. So this is helping me getting started on how I'm going to start my story. I'm not quite ready to write it, but the planning today is going to get me to write it for the next lesson. I'll be much, when you plan, you're just a lot more confident in what you're going to write. Okay, so today you're going to fill out the scene 1 planning in your Google Classroom, okay? Remember to use lots of descriptive language when describing the setting, the characters, and the first action.